Welcome back to Malden's Revolution. I'm Mark Linehan. Today, we're thrilled to be filming at the Davenport Memorial Home, a Gilded Age era home built in 1892 by Albert Henry Davenport of the world-famous A.H. Davenport Company. The Davenport Company made world-class furniture for the finest institutions and families of the era, and was so successful that several styles of sofas and couches today are often simply called Davenports. Davenport furniture from the late 19th and early 20th centuries can still be found today in places as grand and various as the White House and the Iolani Palace in Hawaii. In 1946, Mr. Davenport's daughter, Miss Alice May Davenport, passed away and ensured in her will that her family home would provide a caring and luxurious retirement for Maldonians, and her legacy lives on to this day. Now you can see how beautiful the Davenport home is at Christmas, but 250 years ago today, on December 25th, 1775, Malden celebrated its first Christmas of the American Revolution in the traditional New England way, by scolding people for celebrating Christmas. At the time of the American Revolution, Christmas was not a popular holiday in New England, but in Massachusetts in particular, we had a well-earned reputation for being serious Grinches. In fact, only a century before the American Revolution, Christmas was illegal in Massachusetts from 1659 to 1681, the Puritans believing it was a waste of a good workday. Many Puritans referred to Christmas as Fool's Tide, and the infamous Cotton Mather referred to Christmas festivities as Saturnalian jollities.
Have yourself a jolly Saturnalia.
Mather also said that, quote, men dishonored the Lord Jesus Christ more in the 12 days of Christmas than in all the 12 months of the preceding year. Our story today of Malden on Christmas Day in 1775 comes courtesy of a Rhode Island Quaker named Moses Brown. Moses Brown was an abolitionist and industrialist who was also instrumental in the early years of Rhode Island College, both in terms of donations of land and money, but also in getting Rhode Island College to move from the town of Warren to the city of Providence. After one of Moses Brown's nephews gave a very large bequest, Rhode Island College elected to change its name to Brown University. I'd like to take a quick moment to acknowledge that this is a particularly difficult and painful holiday season, not just for the Brown University family, but the entire Providence, Rhode Island community, and the MIT family as well. And I want you all to know that you are in our hearts. In December of 1775, Moses Brown and many of his fellow Quakers had heard about the suffering in Massachusetts due to the siege of Boston, especially the high number of refugees because of the siege of Boston, but also the decimated town of Charlestown. Moses Brown and his party made their way up to Cambridge to General George Washington's headquarters, where the general politely declined to allow them into the town of Boston. Undeterred, Moses Brown made his way north, where he could help the hardest hit souls that were taking refuge in towns like Salem, Marblehead, and Chelsea. His journeys north of Boston led him to spend the night in Malden on the night of December 25th, in an unnamed location, but a place with 3 floors, for they say that the selectmen of Malden were busy working on the 3rd floor above them, and there was a tremendous noise coming from below them. Soldiers on the ground floor were fiddling and dancing after supper, on Christmas, a work night. Moses Brown and one of his compatriots went upstairs to complain to the Malden selectmen about the noise, not just because Christmas celebrations are offensive in and of themselves, but also because the Congress had resolved to suspend such festivities during wartime. And naturally, the selectmen of Malden agreed with Moses Brown. Christmas in Malden is completely unacceptable. The selectmen went on to say that while they found such frivolity unagreeable, they told Moses Brown they had to allow it because they were soldiers. In Moses Brown's account, he says that the selectmen explained to him that what they were doing was called a Christmas frolic, that it had been going on since the night before, and that these particular soldiers were riflemen. Now, these details, and the fact that the selectmen chose to include them in their explanation for allowing the celebration, gives us some insight into what the selectmen were actually trying to communicate. The selectmen made it clear that being soldiers was enough of a reason to allow their frivolity, since they were here to serve the people of Massachusetts. But by specifying that they were riflemen, the selectmen were also making another point. They're not from here. I love this place. According to the historian J.L. Bell, whose blog Boston 1775 has been invaluable to Malden's revolution, there were 12 companies of riflemen serving during the siege of Boston. 2 companies were from Virginia, 2 companies were from Maryland, and there were only supposed to be 6 companies from Pennsylvania, but recruitment in western Pennsylvania was so successful, they ended up creating 8 companies of riflemen from Pennsylvania. So 2/3 of the riflemen serving during the siege of Boston were from Pennsylvania, and no riflemen were from New England. Another clue into the possible origins of these celebrating riflemen in particular comes from the selectmen's use of the term Christmas frolic. Now, frolic had been a word in English since the 1500s and is credited with having Dutch origins. However, in Moses Brown's diary, he uses the German spelling of the word frolic, ending the word in a CH. And not only were 2/3 of the riflemen in this area from Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania also had a substantial population of German immigrants. Many of these German immigrants were from what is today northern Germany in what was then called the Electorate of Hanover, a realm that was also ruled by King George III. So Hanoverians who moved to America were technically not immigrants. They were simply moving from one part of George's realm to another, bringing their culture, language, and traditions along with them. So these riflemen celebrating Christmas on the ground floor of a Malden tavern were likely Pennsylvanians with German roots and not Maldonians with Puritan roots. But the riflemen's Christmas celebrations continued, for Malden's leaders recognized the value of respecting the customs of others, even if those customs aren't your own and they're happening under your roof. Moses Brown and his party left Malden on December 27th and made it safely home to Rhode Island on December 29th, quote, in health and a good degree of satisfaction. It's been a privilege making these videos for you these last 8 months. The revolution's now in full swing, but next year, that war that we began here in Massachusetts in 1775 is going to become a new nation. Join us as we continue to tell these incredible stories of a small town fighting for a new country. I want to thank our host, the Davenport Memorial Home, and in particular their incredible executive director, Rachel Burke. And on behalf of everyone at the Malden Historical Society, the Malden Public Library, and Mayor Gary Christensen and the entire city of Malden, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a safe and joyous holiday season. We'll see you soon.